You need to get the vital plot information to your readers as early as possible, but you fear that it'll feel forced or inorganic. You want to promote your protagonist's backstory because it'll justify their actions later in the narrative, but how can you do it so it feels natural and earned? The answer lies in expertly crafted exposition, or the art of providing essential background information about a story. But what are the different ways you can utilize exposition in your story? And how can you use them to fill in the vital information your audience needs without breaking the flow of your character's journey? That is exactly what we're covering today. And stick around because at the end we'll also show you how to handle flashbacks as well. Alright, let's get cooking. A writer uses exposition to introduce previous plot events, character backstories, and setting details. While exposition is a necessary part of storytelling, it can also be challenging for writers to get right. In an effort to give the readers and audience key narrative information, writers can overdo it, delivering heavy-handed scenes that drag the story down with bulky plot descriptions and unrealistic interactions. But when crafted carefully, and used in moderation, you'll get your audience up to speed without causing confusion or sacrificing narrative momentum. Today, we're going to show you how to write exposition in 4 different ways: narrative exposition, dialogue exposition, narration or internal monologue, and flashback. But before we begin, poke that subscribe button and bell so you don't miss the next chop. Narrative exposition. The most notable exposition crimes come through character dialogue. Now, this isn't to say that you shouldn't use dialogue for your exposition. Sometimes it works perfectly well, which we'll get to soon. But often a writer should see if they can get across the necessary information by showing it instead of saying it. You can get a lot of relevant information across simply by experiencing the story unfold through the character's eyes and actions. This will provide a charge that will propel the plot and engage the reader. A solid goal to have is to see how much information you can provide through the visuals alone. Instead of having a character tell your protagonist about their own backstory.
Oh, what would Mom and Dad say?
I don't know. They're gone. They died when I was 3, remember?
The character knows this already. The only reason they're talking about it is for the audience to learn. But there could be better ways to present this information visually. How will you do it? Let us know in the comments below. Sometimes though, writers do need dialogue to set up the scene, the story, or the stakes. Dialogue exposition. Not all stories can deliver the backstory and setup through action. Sometimes, especially in science fiction, the writer can't progress until they've provided a chunk of specific information to the audience. And the best way they can do this is by having one character describe it to another. Think about all the various pencil through paper examples of space exploration. But another inspiring example can be found in the film Jurassic Park. The screenwriter David Koepp needed to find a way of explaining how scientists brought dinosaurs back from extinction. Koepp expressed concern early on about this very issue.
We just had to figure out, how do we express our science? We can't go on for 5 or 6 pages the way he does. I think Stephen and I were talking and said, almost as a joke, what if it was just an animated sequence? Or maybe he wasn't kidding, but I laughed first, and then I said, oh, you're serious, and I can't remember.
Koepp then delivered all of the complex exposition in the form of an educational video hosted by an animated mascot. By having the video play for the main characters on a tour of the facility, the writer managed to succinctly set the stage for the rest of the story to play out. Or let's say you need to introduce a ton of characters before your narrative can take off. There are a number of unique ways to go about this. However, Con Air managed to pull it off quite well by having John Cusack's character basically introduce the Rogues Gallery in just 2 minutes. But be cautious with this kind of character listing device, as it can be tricky to stick the landing. There are many examples of poorly executed versions.
Could point a few fingers if it would make you feel comfortable.
Narration or internal monologue exposition. Novels have a great advantage over other storytelling mediums. They can put the reader directly in the minds of the characters. By sharing their thoughts and feelings, the character can provide a wealth of information to the audience. But how can you put your audience into the complex mind of your characters in a script designed for the screen? Think about the film American Psycho. Patrick Bateman's internal monologue is a crucial aspect of the storytelling. Instead of relying solely on dialogue or traditional narrative, director Mary Harron uses voiceover to reveal Bateman's twisted thoughts. As Bateman meticulously describes his morning routine or he critiques his colleagues, the audience gets an intimate look behind the facade he presents to the world.
I simply am not there.
To execute this in your screenplay, consider the tone and style of your story. If you're crafting a psychological thriller or a character-driven drama, internal monologue might be a potent tool. In a more lighthearted context, like the animated film The Emperor's New Groove, a character frequently breaks the fourth wall, offering witty commentary directly to the audience. This technique not only serves as a source of humor, but also provides insight into the character's perspective.
I'm the one in the car, remember? This story's about me, not him. Okay, you got it? All right, we're gonna move ahead. Sorry to slow you down.
Exposition through flashback. The flashback is a literary device that shows readers something that's happened in your story's past. It is applied by writers who need to get across certain motivations or information that they simply can't produce in the current timeline. While the concept itself is a good example of action-oriented exposition, here's a few guidelines for writing an effective flashback. Understand the true purpose of the flashback. Do you really need it? What part of the story is it advancing? What triggered the flashback? Does it deliver a dynamic opening scene? Or did some sensory experience bring a character back to a certain moment in their life? How does the flashback end? Is there something in the scene that will spark the flash forward to present time? Keep it short. Flashbacks should enhance the current story, not drag it down or derail the momentum. For the film adaptation of Cormac McCarthy's The Road, flashbacks are used to contrast how the world used to be before and directly after the apocalypse. The opening juxtaposes an idyllic, serene world before plunging the viewer into the cold, hard, catastrophic reality that our characters now live in. Through the use of narrative flashback, this opening manages to bridge the past with the present, as well as showcase the resourcefulness of the protagonist in just 90 seconds. Now that's effective. And there you have it, information without the dump. How to navigate the 4 exposition techniques in writing. In a lot of writing lessons, exposition gets a bad rap, but the truth is it's a necessary writing device. The art of it lies in how you balance it with the rest of your story's ingredients. Whether through narrative, dialogue, internal monologue, or flashbacks, the key is to seamlessly integrate the essential information you need to provide without derailing your audience in the process. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this chop, then click right here, and together, let's look at the top 10 story structures used by successful writers. My name is Chris Brennan, and until next time, keep honing those writing chops. Baby, I compare you to a kiss from a rose.